If you're not guilty of a crime, what do you need immunity for, right?
When you are given immunity, that means that you've probably committed a crime.
What he's asking is go testify. Go get it out there. Do what you have to do to get there and tell Congress and tell everyone exactly what we've been saying for a long time.
Donald Trump and Michael Flynn back in September when the issue was immunity for Clinton aides in the email investigation, and Sean Spicer today when the issue was whether Michael Flynn should get immunity in the Russia investigation. Time to bring in our panel. Daniel Halper of the New York Post, Mercedes Schlapp, columnist for the Washington Times, and Tim Farley, host of Morning Briefing POTUS on Sirius XM Radio. So let's take a look at the presidential tweet last night that got this debate over immunity going again. After the story broke that General Flynn's lawyer is seeking immunity before Flynn testifies to Congress of the FBI, President Trump tweeted this: Mike Flynn should ask for immunity in that this is a witch hunt, excuse for big election loss, by media and Dems of historic proportion. Daniel, that got this story even rubbed up more.
Look, as Charles said earlier, there's a lot in here that we just don't know what's going on. But if taken on separate levels, I think with General Flynn, given his prior comments about immunity, it really makes you wonder if he, risking his own reputation, risking his own public embarrassment, really has something that he needs immunity for, and why else would he be going out there seeking immunity if not for that reason? That's how it feels at this point, but obviously there's a lot we don't know. And with the president's tweet, likewise, it makes you feel like he is trying to assure General Flynn, don't worry, I've got your back. Don't turn on me, I've got your back. But again, there's a whole lot.
Wait. Are you suggesting you're reading a lot into that tweet?
I'm trying to make sense of it, because by itself it doesn't make sense.
Why you say I got your back? What does that mean?
It means don't flip on me, don't turn on me. But that's assuming that there's something there, and there may not be anything there. It could be that there's nothing there. I'm just saying.
That's too far.
I started off by saying there's a lot that we don't know. These are ways to read the tweets that are really interesting and really provocative. But again, it could be nothing.
What is a little challenging to understand is why the president would tweet talking about Michael Flynn and immunity in the same sentence when the president early on and Sean Spicer basically said, we don't have trust in Michael Flynn anymore. He misled the vice president of the United States. So why bring Michael Flynn back into this
inside the White House
inside the White House when Michael Flynn is no longer part of the White House? And plus, for this immunity, this is about Michael Flynn protecting Michael Flynn. This is about the fact that when you look at his record and the fact that he received thousands of dollars from Russian businesses and from speeches that he gave, and whether he did or did not register as a lobbyist under the FARA Act. I mean, those are the questions that are going to be brought up. So he's trying to protect himself if he's granted this immunity.
But again, you do wonder why the president would touch this with a 10-foot pole.
Why would he do it, especially since the president disconnected himself from Michael Flynn when Michael Flynn, misled the vice president? Makes no sense.
All right, Tim, let's move to another subject we don't know, and that is the question of
my specialty, by the way.
Devin Nunes. And this intel that he got, first he said he got it from a whistleblower, a source whose job might be in jeopardy, and now it turns out that, in fact, he got it at the NSC, right across the street from the White House, from an NSC official. So it seems that he wasn't quite straight about that. And now Devin Nunes, Adam Schiff went today, the Democratic ranking member of the committee, went to the NSC to get the same information, and he came out and he just issued a statement basically saying, he wouldn't say the contents of it, but he said there was nothing there that couldn't be shared with everybody on the committee.
Okay, so here's one of the challenges is trying to make sense of this story every day as America watches. We have, I think, 3 parallel investigations underway, one of which was whether the Russians tried to have an effect on the elections, whether they interfered with the elections. Given the dramatic testimony in the Senate this week, I think it's pretty clear that there's a bipartisan sense that, yeah, the Russians have been doing this for some time and they were trying to. The second is whether or not there was any kind of collusion between the Trump campaign or the Trump transition team and Russia, and there's been no evidence to that effect. A lot of people have smelled smoke. There is an investigation, as we heard last week, from FBI Director Comey. And the third is whether or not, although the debunked claim from President Trump that President Obama wiretapped him, there is still a question question of whether there was an inadvertent collection of any kind of intelligence, and who did that and how it came out. Again, this is sort of like a big Wheel of Fortune, 3 words, 30 letters, and you only have 2 letters so far. One's an R, one's a D, and they're all playing the game.
I want to buy a vowel.
Yeah, well, we want to buy a lot of something here because nobody really knows of all of the facts, and I think it's time to take a breath and wait while some of these investigations take place, rather than have Republicans say, well, Democrats, we're accusing you of this, and Democrats accusing Republicans of something. There's just an awful lot that we need to know before we can start making accusations, I think.
Daniel, we're not very good at taking a breath. I mean, and in fairness to us in the media, you got to report something every day, right? And there continue to be developments. Devin Nunes, Adam Schiff, President Trump, Michael Flynn. I mean, there continue to be little breadcrumbs being dropped on this trail.
Yeah, there's actually news happening. I mean, we're not discussing nothing. We're just huge elements of it that are not in the that are just unknown at this point. We don't know what Nunes learned. We don't know what Congressman Schiff learned today. We just don't know what evidence President Trump might have had. We don't know so much, but yet we do know that there are these wild accusations, and we need to get to the bottom of it.
Sadly, I think you've seen the process played out from the House Intelligence Committee with so much political theater and drama around it. So you have Congressman Schiff going on MSNBC basically saying there's circumstantial evidence that there's colluding between the Trump campaign and Russia without even knowing what the findings are. And then you have obviously the incident with Congressman Nunes heading to the White House. Now, in that case alone, in talking with individuals within the House Intelligence Committee, what I learned was the fact that there's false information out there. The fact that this source really wanted to have this confidentiality, guarantee of confidentiality from Congressman Nunes. And so that is why he asked the chairman specifically to be able to share that information, obviously in a secure location. That is the story that I've been told. I don't think it's a story that's gotten out as effectively.
Yeah, but wait. If he's sharing this information in the NSC before NSC officials, why on earth did Devin Nunes need to go back the next day, make this dramatic briefing of President Trump? And why is he briefing President Trump in the first place? He's the head of an independent investigation.
Yes, but as chairman, he has that discretion to do so, and he found that information.
Do you think it's wise for him to be?
I think the process has been messy. I think, unfortunately, it's been so politicized, and I think that for Nunes, it's just the story actually has become more about Nunes and less about the fact that we have a very serious issue that we have to take into play here, which is whether intelligence resources or information were used for political purposes, and what is the extent that the Obama administration has been involved in surveillancing Trump campaign officials.
There's also the continuing investigation of possible collusion between...
That is the other part we need to investigate, and we got to get to the bottom of it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, you keep me honest.
There you go. Next up, the Friday lightning round.